Hey guys, my name's Edward. I run the Cheddar Betters account. I'm going to talk to you today about UFC 263, my picks, predictions, what I think is going to happen, and I'm going to try and keep it under 10 minutes even though it's a very long card. If there's a fight I don't like, I'm just going to skip it for today rather than giving the reasons why. First one on the card, heavyweight bout, Carlos Felipe against Jake Collier. No bet on this one. Don't like either guy. Neither of them have a gas tank. There's no reason to bet it. Next fight on the card, Fares Ziam and Luigi Vendramini. Like Luigi in this one, he's a plus 102 dog. I think he wins 6 out of 10 times. He's great when he's under pressure. And Fares is one of those guys who sometimes can apply that pressure in the middle rounds. But there's not a lot of film on either guy. I still think Luigi wins 6 out of 10 times, and that's why I threw a half a unit on him at plus 102. Next fight up, Steven Peterson, Chase Hooper. I like this one a lot. I have a unit on Steven Peterson at minus 112. I think he's moved up to about minus 118 or 120 on most books now. Still a little value there. You can throw a half or 1 unit. I have 1 on him. Hooper's a little lanky. He's young. And the benefits to being that young and that in shape and in that condition is, yeah, he can go the whole fight and not get gassed out, and he could take a hell of a punch. Steve Peterson's a journeyman. He's very big for his weight class. Missed weight by 2.5 pounds, which is huge, but also not huge, but that's significant. And I think that he realized he wasn't going to make weight. He had an option. I can cut down the 2.5 pounds and be completely winded. And I think he's a guy who's fighting for his UFC career right now. He'd rather miss weight and make a statement against Hooper and be comfortable in the octagon. And I think also fight today. I mean, when he gets in there, he's going to be at least 8 to 10 pounds heavier than Hooper. I think it's going to play into a big difference there. And even though he doesn't have the reach advantage, I think he'll get it done. I actually think he might get it done inside the distance, but no play on that. So again, minus 118, half a unit or one unit, whatever you feel. Next fight, Matt Frivola, Terrence McKinney, both very inexperienced, no bet there. Panny Kianzad and Alexis Davis, no bet there either. I've seen one of Panny's fights and probably none of Alexis, so I don't have a bet on that one. The next one after that's pretty interesting, but I just have a very small bet on it. I have Evloev minus 110 by decision. He wins most of his fights by decision. Dawodu is undervalued big time, which is why I went with that decision play. Minus 240 for Evloev is a little steep. I think he should be minus 150. So very small play on this one. Maybe a half a unit on the decision there, but that's about it. Evloev has an unbelievable gas tank. He just has such stamina and such endurance, and he really has a hell of a chin. It's extremely difficult to knock him out, so we'll see how he does against a knockout artist. But keep in mind, though, Dawodu hasn't really beaten any top talent yet. Neither has Evloev, but he's just been more dominant. Next fight is Lauren Murphy, Joanne Calderwood. Love Joanne. She's one of my favorite fighters, but both these girls are getting pretty old for the UFC. Lauren Murphy's 37, Joanne is 35. Joanne has beaten some big dogs, coming off a big win over Jessica Ai, she's no slouch. That's a great fighter to have a win over under your belt. Lauren Murphy kind of finds her way winning all of her fights, and I just don't know how. I mean, she loses her share. She's lost to Chikagian. They both have, actually. And I have a good feeling on Calderwood here. She's a minus 148. I think she should have been maybe minus 160, minus 170. So I threw a unit on her at minus 148. I do like that play. I think Lauren Murphy's age is going to show a little bit here, whereas Joanne Calderwood, even though they both have a similar amount of fights and a similar amount of experience, I think she's a little bit more fresh of a fighter, and she's got a little bit better of a stand-up game and an ability to not get taken down. So this will be a kickboxing match. I definitely think that this fight goes the distance. So if you want to throw that in a parlay, it's around minus 330 or something like that. It's a good little addition. Fight goes the distance. Next fight on the card, we have Eric Anders, Darren Stewart, middleweight fight. These guys are huge. They're big for their weight and they're huge, but they don't have great energy. They come out and they blast fast, and that's it. And I just don't see this fight going very long. I have a prop, and I don't bet props often, but I like this one. DraftKings has it. Some other places might have it. Winning group of rounds, 1-2, plus 145. So if the fight ends in the first or the second round, it's plus 145. If it goes to the third or decision, then we lose. Half a unit, quarter, whatever you're comfortable with. I threw a half a unit on it. Last fight, quick little insight here. They did fight each other before, and it ended with a no contest. Eric Anders mauled Darren Stewart. Mauled him. I mean, beat the living heck out of him. And Darren Stewart opened in that first fight as a minus 180 favorite. He opened in this fight as a plus 120 underdog. Vegas wised up to it. They think Eric Anders is a better fighter. So do I. That's why I like him at minus 150. But even though I like him and Vegas valued it correctly, it doesn't mean I'm going to bet it. I just think Vegas is spot on here. It's a 6 out of 10 fight, but I think more likely and more valuable of a bet is that plus 145 inside of 2 rounds. Next fight is Dober versus Riddell. Riddell is I think he's New Zealand. He's from New Zealand. Dober's recent losses are huge names. Beneil Dariush, Islam Makhachev, who's a plus 330 dog for Makhachev, a plus 150 dog for Dariush. I think Dober gets this one done. He's beaten a lot of guys lately. Riddell's no slouch. He's a great kickboxer, but in that division, Dober has the stand-up advantage against most guys that are not top 10 ranked. And Riddell's not top 10 ranked. So that's why I like him in a parlay. Drew Dober in a small parlay. I'm going to go through what my picks are right at the end of this video. And then I'll show you where he's at. Paul Craig, Jamal Hill. A little beef in the hotel and in the with all the press stuff. A little beef between these two guys, but it doesn't really mean anything to me. I don't really care about the hype or anything like that. I just think Paul Craig's way undervalued. He's seen top talent in his day. He's fought some big names, and he's won against some big guys. His only recent loss is to Alonzo Menafield, who I don't really put much on that because Alonzo can knock out anybody, any day, anytime, anywhere. He's one of those types of fighters. Jamal Hill hasn't fought the level of talent Paul Craig has, and they're pretty close in age. I think they're about 3 years apart, so Paul's a much more experienced fighter. He might not have as great of a chin, but we really haven't seen Jamal Hill's chin tested that well. So I don't think Craig ever gets the respect from Vegas. When he fought Mauricio Shogun Rua, the first fight he was a plus 117 underdog, and then it was, I forget what happened to be honest. It was a no contest or a draw or something. And then they fought again, and he opened as a minus 185 favorite. Vegas wised up to him, but then they disrespected him again in the Jamal Hill fight. I think this fight is about 50-50, maybe 45 out of 100 times Craig will win, and 55 out of 100 Jamal will. But at plus 220 I think he is. Yeah, plus 220, I'll throw a quarter of a unit on Paul Craig. I like that. So that's where I'm at with that fight. Let's crack into the main card here. I think that was the first fight of the main card. But anyway, here's the meat and potatoes of this. Belal Muhammad, Demian Maia. Damian's one of my favorite fighters of all time. I think he's one of the best. I think he's probably the best jiu-jitsu artist that ever walked the earth. He's definitely top 5. He's 43 years old. And in my last video I said this, I'll say it again. I don't bet on anyone over 40 unless their name is Glover Teixeira. It's the only person I'll bet on over 40. Doesn't mean I always bet against them, but in this case I am. Demian Maia's last 8 fights, he lost to Burns. No issue there. No beef with that. He beat Askren. He beat Anthony Rocco Martin. And he beat Lyman Good. Those were his last 4. Before that, he lost to Usman. He lost to Colby Covington. He lost to Woodley. And then he beat Masvidal way back. I just think he can't handle top 10 guys anymore. It shows. I don't think he's been able to handle top 10 guys in the last 4 years. But he can handle those unranked guys. Belal being, I don't think he's even ranked right now. If he is, he's very low. He's like 14 or 15 or something. I'm not sure on that. I'll have to check. Belal puts unbelievable pressure on guys. That no contest versus Leon, I think he was going to lose against Leon, but Leon's a top dog. His last 5, he no contest to Leon. He beat Diego Lima. He beat Lyman Good, same guy that Damian beat. He beat Curtis Millender, and before that he lost to Jeff Neal, but he was starting to get, feel his way through the division. So I got Belal in our lock parlay. It's a 7-unit parlay. The next leg of that parlay is Leon Edwards, so keep that in mind. 7 units. I'll go through it again at the end. 7 units, Belal and Leon parlayed together, both on the money line. Leon Edwards and Nate Diaz, I don't really need to say much here. I think that Josh Thompson quote says it all. Leon, if you haven't seen it, look at it. It's pretty telling. Leon Edwards is faster, stronger, has better endurance, has a better chin than Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz has a great chin, probably one of the best ever, but the problem is he's a bleeder now. He's older. I think he fights a lot of these gimmicky fights, and I'm just not about that. I think Diaz is really... He's had his day, and it's over now. Now it's Leon's time, and I think this one will stop inside the distance. I put a half a unit on top of the 7-unit parlay. I have a half a unit on Edwards by KO, TKO, or disqualification at plus 100, even money. Figueiredo versus Moreno. Figueiredo, same old song and dance for this guy. He's way too big. He needs to go up to bantamweight. He can't make weight at this class anymore. And he looked absolutely exhausted again on the scale. I think if he loses this fight, he goes up to bantam. I think 4 out of 10 times Moreno wins this fight. Figgy has a way, even though he has those brutal weight cuts, he has a way of finding ways to win fights still. He won the first fight, except for that point deduction. He did win that first fight, but Moreno gets better and better and better, and he is in the prime of his prime. He is in the absolute peak of his prime. Moreno's 6 years younger. He's 27 years old. That is like just the perfect age. And Figgy to be cutting that much weight is 33. I just don't. I'm definitely not putting Figgy in a parlay. Let's put it that way. A lot of people did do that. I don't have that at all. I think that's kind of a dumb play because there's a lot of ways he can lose this fight. Let's talk about the main event. My favorite fight for sure of the night. It's not always the main. This time it is. Marvin Vettori is one of my favorite guys, but I think there's just not a lot of respect on his name. Israel Adesanya, I just think, he's a little older. I think he's 4 or 5 years older than Vettori. I think he was badly exposed by Jan Blachowicz. I understand. He was in a higher weight class. He gave up 15 pounds or whatever it was. I don't care. Jan Blachowicz exposed what you need to do to Izzy to win. Every other fight that Izzy's had, where he's won all of them, Robert Whittaker, Kelvin Gastelum, Yoel Romero, all the big names he's beaten, that's fine. None of them wrestled him. Some of them had great wrestling, but I'm not Gilbert Burns, by the way. I mixed him up, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean there. He just hasn't been able to... he hasn't been taken down early. And I think if there's a guy who can do that, it's Marvin Vettori. I think Vettori wins half of these fights. I think Adesanya wins half of these fights. I made this fight as a minus 135, minus 140 for Izzy. Vettori's never been knocked down. He's never even been dropped. He's never been sat down in a professional fight. That's impressive. Costa was who I was thinking of, by the way, not Burns. No one's taken him down. The key to this fight, for either fighter, is winning round 2 and round 3. Whoever wins round 2 and round 3, or even if they split, the person who's more dominant will win the fight. Vettori, his key to victory in round 2 and round 3 is getting a takedown in the middle or the end of round 2 and showing a little dominance there, and then taking it right back to the ground in round 3, getting some ground and pound on, but more importantly than the ground and pound, holding him there, using his weight, and tiring him out. Vettori doesn't have a particularly spectacular gas tank, but Adesanya doesn't either. So it's going to come down to who can tire out whom, and if Vettori's going to win, he's got to do it in round 2 and round 3. He doesn't want to blow his tank, he wants to tire out Adesanya's. Adesanya's key to victory in rounds 2 or round 3 are by keeping the fight standing, tagging Vettori from a distance, and we all know that getting big bombs from a guy like Israel Adesanya is going to tire you out. I think that's his key to victory. Either way, they got to win round 2 and 3 to win the fight. I have 2 units at plus 215 on Marvin Vettori. Those are my picks for the day. I'm going to run through them real quick in case you didn't catch them all. What I have for my props, and I rarely bet props, but I got 3 on this card. So I have Evloev by decision. You can throw a quarter or a half on it. I think I have a half total on it at minus 110. I have Leon by KO, TKO, or disqualification. Half a unit there. You can bump that up to 1 unit if you want. I'm playing with these a little bit, but I think 1 or 2 of these will hit, and you'll either lose a little or you'll make a little, which is why I don't bet props a lot. And then I like the Anders and Stewart fight, winning group of rounds 1 to 2. So, fight ends before the second round, if you want to call it that way. DraftKings definitely has one. Maybe there's other books that do too. Plus 145, half a unit on that one. Like it a lot. Parlays, I have Drew Dober money line parlayed with Calderwood Murphy to go the distance. I like that at 1 unit. It's plus 116. I think Calderwood wins the fight. I think she wins by decision, but I still think there's a chance she could stop her. That's why I have 1 unit on her on the money line and not by the distance. Don't want to overexpose myself on those 2 bets. So plus 116, 1 unit. I think that goes to decision there. The big one is 7 units. Bilal Muhammad, and Leon Edwards parlayed, both on the money line, minus 143. You can still get it around 140, 150 right now. Still has a ton of value. And then the straight bets, I have Marvin Vettori, 2 units at plus 215. I have Craig at a quarter of a unit, plus 220. Peterson, minus 118, 1 unit. A half now if you don't love that fight. Still worth it. Vendramini, half a unit at plus 102. And Calderwood, minus 148, 1 unit. Those are my bets for the night. Hope you cash them, make some money tonight. I'll check back with you next week for the UFC Fight Night.